I want you to see this as a meditative practice. And when you're up here, you've got the listeners in the audience being with you. So if this was a pure meditation practice, which it is, I'd come up here, and the first thing I would do is take a few breaths to ground, to this, let myself drop to the center of the earth. At least a couple. Then I'd gently open my eyes, and I'd notice the listening. I'd notice the listening. I'd notice the listening. That would be my job. To feel into what is this thing called attention? No rush to even speak. This is a meditation of receiving attention. It's what scares us, is why we have any anxiety around public speaking, is because the attention is too much. And then this thing of the feeling the pressure of being with someone, the meditative co-mindful aspect is that we're softening our gaze. That's the practice, softening our gaze instead of strengthening our gaze. Yeah. You're feeling into this thing called group attention on you, focused attention. You can feel it, you can see it. I want you to see it. I want you to sense it, feel into it. You know, we think we have to get up here and right away start talking, and that's not the meditative approach. The meditative approach is there's no rush. If this was the way they teach Zen and the Art of Archery, where for the first year in their practice, they never shoot an arrow. Have you heard that? They don't even, they spend a year and then they maybe pull back in the second year, and then the third year they get arrows. But this is the dynamic of being attended to, and when you really let it in and start to feel into it, you'll see what wants to be said through you. So instead of what do I want to say, it's more like bless you. It's more like what's called for, like a blessing. If somebody sneezes, what's called for? What's calling on you? Without thinking about it, you don't even have to wonder what's calling you. There's something in this meditative co-mindfulness that the person up here is, in a way, when they are speaking, they're speaking for the group. They're speaking from humanity, from their point, from their, what wants to come through to clarify something. So that's the exercise. And what we're going to start is with a 3-minute turn, starting with the folks who've been here more. And you'll notice they're going to get up and we're going to gently applaud them. And they're going to close their eyes, get up here and close their eyes for at least a couple of breaths. And then I call this holding stillness. It's only one way to do it. It's a straight face with some sense of potential in it. So we're not, recognizing the person or smiling at the person. Maybe there's a natural glow that comes through. So for that first minute, starting from when you close your eyes, so there's a minute where you don't speak. You're just there. And then after a minute, I'll put my finger up, and it means you have 3-minute turn where you may speak. Words may come. But they only come from being with one person at a time, even to the extent that you really don't leave somebody until you notice you're leaving. Is the equivalent of getting the chord before strumming. Like, I'm here, and then I know I'm leaving. And I'm here, so this is slowing it down, especially for people who are new at this, to really sense the co-mindful presence. And then the second time I put my finger up, it means finish up in 30 seconds more or less. And we will applaud you, and you will take every clap until the last clap and then a full breath. And you'll see from the people who've been here what that does for you as an audience when the person doesn't run away. I will model receiving all my applause and then a breath.
Coming to Lee to the good doctor for over a decade, and I still find it endlessly fascinating. Just a group of people and being in presence. And I'm an artist and philosophical by nature, so of course that makes sense that I just keep diving into this work of being in presence with other people. And I love the daylongs. Another reason why I come to answer that question more fully. I don't. At a regular speaking circle, I actually feel pressure. I've got 3 minutes and 7 minutes, as opposed to the old days of, oh no, how am I going to talk for 10 minutes? It's how am I going to condense all the things I want to do and say and work with. I didn't know I was going to say this right now in only 10 minutes, whereas here there's more time. So there's material I want to work. I'm an artist, an environmentalist, a complete wacko tree lover. So there's things I want to, communicate and get information across to people, and how to prepare something for a stage presentation or talk. And then of course your audience varies, and you kind of anticipate what the audience will be, but there are different audiences, and then each time you anticipate an audience, well, it changes in the moment. The mood changes. And how much to be in kind of meditative, quieter presence like I am now, but then for the material, and then the room, and then the size of a room, and then the energy of the audience, which is unknowable. Sometimes I do want to be more lively and, give it some energy, but not so much that it's a performance. And even some of my greatest self-torturers have become my greatest gifts. So I've got this, as we all do, some version of an inner critic who's always watching and judging. How am I doing? Which, God, that's as I learned from an emotional growth workshop years ago. A teacher of mine taught me, it just landed like a thunderclap. And he looked at the group and said, most of us, most of the time, are doing this to ourselves. He wasn't laughing when he did it. I mean, you may laugh, but criticizing and hitting ourselves. And of course, I'm assuming with this group who has some meditation experience, and for the most part in Marin, we know that. And that's the inner critic, and it's just a voice in my head. It's not the truth. And yet, God, that stuff is powerful. So even when I was talking over here and kind of pulling the group to pay attention to me, I criticized myself for wanting and needing the attention doing a performance. And I never criticize myself when I'm just seeking truth. Like, what the frick is this life about? Who am I? Why am I saying these words? What's going on with this, what's happening right now? It's me just genuinely exploring the magic of this life. And I don't have any inner critic with that. Other than, I guess, in some, of course there is. The critic can say, well, that's too revealing or too emotional, or you're being too much. I don't have that voice, of course, in this room, in these rooms, in these circles. Hence the therapy of it. So, wow, that was 4 minutes. It just whips by. Thank you, I'm supposed to say.
one way to look at what the professional implications of this work is, I want to put it out right out front because it's sometimes it's just so exciting, so much fun and nourishment in here. You think, well, this is great, but what does it have to do with the world out there? I'll tell you directly. Here we approach this as a meditation. And we're building neural pathways that associate being in front of a group with more of a meditative relaxation. Whereas when you came to this work, usually you don't approach it as meditation, you approach it as performance, or I got to do something. Trauma, drama.
Lucky.
So when you do a lot of this, what happens, it starts to show up in audiences. Not like, oh, it's a technique I have. It's like, oh, I can start this way. I can take a breath with my eyes closed. Very few speakers know they can take a breath with their eyes closed. And hardly any of them know that they can open after they take a breath with their eyes closed with an actual breath with another human being. Even that alone will relax you. Mm-hmm. So in real world, at least a breath with your eyes closed and a breath with somebody, and that's maybe 15 seconds, and that alone will bring you more into this space. But we're doing a lot more than that. We're bringing from this to our speaking out there. It's a whole sense of embodied attunement, which is a miracle to me because I had the world's worst stage fright until my late 40s, which is what this was the only way I could get around it.